Okay, it looks like my screen's vertical, so thank you for that. Is that better? I hope it is. And thank you very much indeed for letting us know. Perfect, thanks Jimmy. All right, so what we want to look at is the sales side of things as discussed. So sales tends to be something of a dirty word, let's be honest. It's something that a lot of people, particularly I've found, over the last 20, 30 years, entrepreneurs do find it really difficult to get to grips with. It's something that they kind of think is a bit, it's a bit like for somebody else. Okay, now the product side of things is really, obviously, this is what they're here to do. So this is what you are, what you're put here for, what your purpose is to create this and to get this out into the world. Then the marketing side is it's creative too, right? So many entrepreneurs I've found do then kind of get quite into this and can kind of feel the creativity and understand that actually putting this, broadcasting their message out into the world is also something that they're relatively comfortable with. When it comes to sales is where people start to get a little bit less enthused, if I can put it that way. But it is, as part of these three key disciplines, it is so important. And the amount of times that I've heard, more in hope than really kind of believing it, that my product sells itself, I would be a very, very rich man if I had £1 for every time I've heard that. Your product, sadly, I'm sorry to say, does not sell itself. Okay, we've got to forget that. The product, I'm sure, is wonderful, and you will have iterated, as we've discussed before, and made it look amazingly beautiful. You then have this marketing side of things where you are able to convey your messaging and all of the beauty of it out into the world. This is where you get feedback generally, and that's the hardest thing for many entrepreneurs, many people who have this beautiful baby that they bring out into the world and show everybody, and everybody goes, and you think it's very beautiful. Obviously, it does feel the baby's beautiful, and people look at it and go, and that moment where you kind of have to accept that feedback is a really hard one. So as a kind of aside, what I almost never do is take the entrepreneur or the founder into meetings with clients early on, because it does become so defensive. Actually you're sitting there in front of somebody and you're saying, look, this is amazing, and the potential client come back and go, well, I kind of like that bit, but that bit's, I'm not really sure about that. And that's almost like a personal sort of affront to somebody who spent this long doing all this sort of stuff. But it is so important. All right, so we will start with each of these, going into each of these five. We're going to start with sales process. But all the way through this, I just want you to think about we are always selling, okay? And sales gets such a bad rep. And probably particularly because people say things like ABC, always be closing. And it's got so many, it just feels like it's a bit too in people's faces. So what I want you to do when you're thinking about sales is actually just think about, look, this is what I'm here to do, right? This is the product concept, which we've spoken about a huge number of times. This is why I'm solving this problem. You have to get to this. You have to be able to deliver this. You have to be able to sell this, because otherwise you're not doing what you're here to do. All right. So it is a bit of a take a deep breath and jump in, but it's going to be so worth it, and it is going to be the thing that enables you to fulfill your mission, to be able to do the thing that you are here to do. So let's get cracking. Let's look at the first of them, which is sales process. Now, at this point, we're still a little bit in the theory side of things. All right, so we're not actually pushing you right headfirst into actually going out and face-to-face or on phone, or however we're going to end up selling your product. Sales process is, I often think of it as kind of two of the most boring words that an entrepreneur could hear smashed together. All right, so sales, God, and then process, God. So sales process is how you are going to sell this product. All right, now, generally speaking, It has 4 kind of steps to it, and it's like a funnel. All right. So if you think about sales process as a bit of a funnel, sorry, let me just move this on. Sorry, I do like to start with a bit of a quote. So this is a quote all about sales. It says, "Care enough to create value for your customers." Okay, so it's about you caring. Right? That's what sales is. You caring enough to create value for your customers. And if you get that part right, then selling is easy. And that's actually Jan Marino, who's a great sales consultant himself. I do think that you've got to get that mindset of sales about this being a mission, all right? And it gets you through so many barriers that you put up yourself or that others will put up for you. If you know in your heart that this is what you are here to do, all right? And that's how I generally speak with entrepreneurs and founders and get them to get over that kind of that innate kind of human thing about, I don't really want to talk to people because I don't want to hear them say no. I don't want to put this out there because somebody is going to criticize it and it's really, really personal to me. You've got to take that, all right? This is about caring. It's about delivering on your mission. Right, so sales process. It's a funnel. It's a funnel. So what you start with in these 4 steps, right? There are loads of little kind of nano steps, and you and your business will identify and isolate them as you go through. But broadly speaking, there's sort of 4 different levels in every sales funnel. And the first of them is identification. Okay, now we have spent some time up here in product service talking about the people that you are here to serve. We have spent time in marketing intel, getting data on them. So this identification piece is pretty much come from those 2 steps. And what you're then doing is you're saying, right, so this cohort, these tens of thousands of people are those that I want to approach. Okay, that I want to get them into my funnel, into the top of my funnel, so that I can then start to engage with them and take them further through to conversion. So the identification phase, it comes from the marketing. It gives you a kind of universe to go at, and you then look at how you're going to approach them. Now, marketing is a really, obviously, a key element here. So you've got your brand, intel, content, distribution, and advertising. So you will be going out and you'll be putting your messaging out there around the product concept, and you will be enticing those people to come towards you. Okay, so you are going to be putting out that marketing messaging, and that is what is going to bring those identified into your funnel. So the identification phase is kind of like a broadcast phase. And then the second phase of your sales process is the engagement side. Okay, now this is when people start to react to what you're putting out there. All right, so this is all part of the process and the sales process. You have advertised, you have distributed your content, you have made people aware of who you are, what you stand for, and you're starting to get feedback in. Now, the best sales that you can do are going to be those that are inbound leads. All right, we're going to talk about activity and various other things further down here. But if you are able to generate those inbound leads so that you are essentially kind of almost oversubscribed. There is a great book, by the way, by a guy called Daniel Priestley called Oversubscribed, which is well worth a look. But the idea here is that people are clamoring for your product so much, and believe me, that feels amazing as a kind of founder entrepreneur as well. I think you've got all these people coming in. You are able to essentially simply through this funnel just kind of pull in the best ones, convert them into your product. Now that is spectacularly difficult. All right, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it already. The chances are that those products either are being invented by you right now, or are yet to come, because somebody will already be servicing that need or will have created that need in order to deliver their products down. What you are doing is you are creating the need for your service through obviously product market fit, through the marketing and conversations that you're having out there. But if you can drive people into this funnel, then what you are doing is you are creating a level of engagement that is much, much easier to convert. All right, so all the way through this funnel, what we are doing is we are trying to shove 1,000 people in the top and get 1,000 people at the bottom. All right, that is the perfect product. It doesn't happen. All right, what you don't find is that 1,000 people go at the top and 1,000 come at the bottom, because there is leakage all the way through. So each of these 4 steps, you've got to think about where the leakage is and how you can widen that funnel out. So you've identified who your market is. You've gone out and approached them. They are coming back. Some of them, not the 4,000, sadly. So some of them are coming back in, and what you then have to do is you're engaging with them. Okay, so you are actually then in a kind of conversation with them, where they are looking at you going, I kind of like you, but I'm not really sure about this or that or this or that. Now, how you go and do this, what your method of engagement is, can vary hugely. This is why this sales process is so important to understand how it actually fits into your business. Okay, so it is not the case that these sales processes are just a cookie cutter and fit them into loads of different businesses. There are, as I say, there's 4 broad areas to focus on. But for the engagement phase, it may be that you're a shop, and the engagement is somebody coming into the shop. Obviously, in a few weeks' time, people are going to be opening back up again, and that is going to be a thing again, which is great. It might be that. It might be that the part of your sales process is the telephone. So you are on a conversation with them. It might be purely done on email. It might be done via a chat. It might be done on Zoom. So whatever that engagement phase is, how you actually then continue the conversation. You've generated interest. Now, how do you engage? How do you make sure that that person who sends a lead in, or who sticks their hand up and says, I'm quite interested in what you've got, that you don't lose that lead? All right, you have to keep your promises. The worst thing that I ever see, amongst the worst that I ever see, is people who don't respond to leads. Okay, they've done all the hard work, they've spent so long, and they've got it right. You know, the product is there, the market is there, the market fits there, the marketing messaging has gone out, and people come in and go, that looks really good. I'm really interested in talking to you about it. And it just falls on the floor. And it is a terrible, terrible thing when businesses are not servicing their customers at even that very basic level, where actually people are indicating that they're quite interested in what you've got, but you do not have the process or the capacity to deal with that. It is it's a business breaker. You must not. If there's one thing to take away from today, don't do that. Do not let leads smash on the floor, because that person who was interested enough is now feeling really, really stupid. And anybody else that asks them about your business is going to find that that person is very, very dismissive of it. And that starts that whole negative virality, where people are actually just saying, look, they're really rubbish, so don't use them. So you've got the identification phase, you've then got the engagement phase, where you are actually starting to have that conversation and starting to draw them further in to your sales process, into your funnel, and again trying to get the maximum number of people through that funnel, so widening the funnel out as much as you possibly can. So once you are engaged with them, and you know, again, the micro areas of this funnel are, you know, how often do I talk to them? When do I try and bring them further down the funnel? How powerful is an email exchange versus a chat versus a telephone conversation? What works? Because everything that you do in the sales process side is about widening that funnel out, is about making sure that more people drop through. So you've got the engagement going. You understand more about what your kind of key activities are in order to get people into the funnel and drop them down through the engagement phase. The next phase is the commitment phase. Now, the important thing about this third stage, and then the fourth stage, which is the kind of conversion stage, is actually how they interplay with each other. All right, so the conversion, which is the third phase, sorry, and the commitment is the fourth phase. The conversion phase is where you get them to say, yes, I'd like your product. Okay, so importantly, you've got the identification phase, you've got the engagement phase, you've got conversion, and then commitment. So conversion is where they say, yes, I'd like your product. Okay, so the engagement has happened. You've done really well there. You've then got them to convert, to say, yes, I want it. All right, and again, why do you get that funnel? Obviously, more reason. So you're converting them into somebody that wants your product. Now, that is not the same as the commitment phase, all right, which is the actual moment in time that they sign for, where they click that button that says, I agree to your terms and conditions, or whatever that commitment phase is. Because it is legion, the stories of people who have built things out, and everybody gets to that conversion stage and says, this is amazing, I really, 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 really want it, I love it, love it, love it. And then they don't click on the actual button to book it. All right, it is desperate. And, you know, again, I've been there many times with many different businesses and many different entrepreneurs where you're just sitting there looking at it going, everybody says they want this, but nobody's clicking the goddamn button. Right? Nobody is, or not enough people are actually getting through from that to that. And this again is why the funnel is so important, because what it does is it poses you the right questions, right? If you know, and if you are finding that people are getting all the way down to that conversion phase, saying yes, 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 I love this, and then not actually buying, that's a really, really, really big problem. And just by solving that particular thing, you know, perhaps it is those terms and conditions are too onerous. Perhaps it is that the button is the wrong color and disappears into the background. Perhaps it is that suddenly, when they see the delivery charge, they go, and actually that delivery charge is way out of line, so I'm not going to click that button. Whatever it is, you need to fix it. But by following or by identifying your sales process, what you're doing is you're giving yourself the best opportunity to do that, and the best opportunity to find what it is that people are doing or not doing that's going to help to solve that problem. And by the way, at that end of the funnel, when you're right down at the bottom, simply being able to expand that slightly, so, you know, 1 to 10% increase in people dropping through that has a hugely exponential impact on your bottom lines, your top lines. It just flows. You can kind of see, you unblock it, and suddenly things are happening, and suddenly your business is really flying. So 4 stages of the sales process. It is, so think about your identification, think about your engagement, think about your conversion. So how do you get them to say yes? And then think about the commitment. How do you then make sure that they sign and follow through? And then you're in a position to deliver the product that you are here to do. All right, so that is the sales process side of things. And as I said, preventing leakages is huge within that. The next one is sales collaboration. So sales collaboration is all about, it's about borrowing credibility is probably the easiest way of phrasing it. Whoever you are, in whichever industry you're working in, and whatever set of people you are here to serve, there will be other companies already, other organizations, other associations, other groups that are speaking with that, either that entire group or a subset or a significant subset of that group already. Okay, so what you need to do is think about who is already talking to my audience. Okay, now I'm working with a few businesses right now, some of whom are, you know, focused on people who are relatively affluent, people who aren't necessarily super high net worth, but are looking at, you know, they're relatively ambitious. Obviously, the world has changed them a little bit right now. Where do those people hang out? So, you know, we're looking at things like gyms, you know, sports clubs. We think that their children go to outstanding schools that may not necessarily be private schools. So can we approach, you know, academies and outstanding schools and see if we can actually put our messaging into and ally ourselves with those organizations? Okay, you know, maybe it's Audi garages, things like that. Whoever is already speaking with your audience, whoever is already having those conversations and is trusted by your target market, is an organization or a company or an association that you want to also start to have a conversation with. Okay, now this is necessarily an extremely asymmetrical conversation generally when you're starting out or when you are launching or when you're looking to grow. In general, they have all of the people that you want to speak to. You have perhaps very little, but what you've got to try and do is understand how you can get that dynamic to be more level. What you are here to do can ally with what they are here to do. All right, and I think that the question I get a lot is about potential competitors. What happens if I tell this company all about what I'm doing and they then just copy it? That's got to be a risk, isn't it? So I think a lot of the time, one spends a lot of time in one's head, particularly when you're starting to think, when you're trying to work all this stuff out, and you've gone through all this, and you've obviously decided this is a really great idea because you're putting your heart and soul into really going for it. There is almost an expectation that other people have the same. When they realise, they're going to know that this is brilliant, and they're going to just nick it and go and use it themselves. So, but my advice is, in general, and there's obviously a massive caveat, that if you are speaking with a potential competitor or somebody who is already dabbling their toe in whatever you're doing, don't talk to those guys. But there will be people in adjacent industries, I think is the best word of describing it. Adjacency, where people are, that they're not doing what you're doing. It's unlikely that they want to do what you do because they potentially would have done it already. But they are speaking to the customers that you want to speak to, and they are, and that they are credible. Okay, so they actually have a good reputation, all right? And it comes back as well to product concept. And I know I have spoken to you many times about product concept and how everything comes back to product concept. The answer to the question, why am I solving this problem? All right, that why, that USP that's yours. When you are seeking a collaboration with another organization, one of the things that I find really useful is to ask them why, and why they're doing what they're doing, because that match is really important. All right, and it's a lack of conflict, I think, is what I'll describe as. So, if you are a very ethical environmental organization, and you are looking to partner up and to collaborate with another organization, it's important to make sure that they are too, because if they're not, and then in a year's time you find that they are partnering up also with a fossil fuel company, then that gives you a problem. And again, this is why knowing and being able to articulate your product concept, your why, floods into everything else and enables you to make some very quick decisions about what the types of organizations are that you might want to work with, and whether they are right for you, for your customers, for, if they are a little bit, if the business is a little bit kind of, it doesn't really know itself, and it might actually suddenly pivot into this other thing that is not where you want to be, you can get some collateral damage from that and some brand hit. So it's important to be careful about who you are collaborating with, but and it's a huge kind of but, it's so important to get this right. If you can find the right organization or organizations that are speaking to your customers, that is credible, that is friendly, that wants to work with you because they see the value in what you're doing, you can supercharge your business. All right, you can really make it grow so much faster than it would if you were trying to do this on your own. Now, what will they want in return? Will they want a payment? Will they want so that's kind of advertising. It's actually advertising. You can advertise on their site, or you can advertise in newsletters that they send out to their customers, or you can have a little sticker up in their job. I don't know. Whatever they want obviously has to be balanced by what you think you're going to get out of it. But often what you find, and this is true in life as well, if you ask for something, often people will be quite happy to give it. So, I have almost always found that you can get the people are willing to help if you are open, honest, trustworthy, all those kinds of things, and your product concept is clear and they buy into your product concept, then they will be much more willing to to allow you access to their customer base, to your future customer base, on relatively good terms. Okay, and again, we're talking about sales here, right? This is people by people all the time. Okay, that there is very your product does not sell itself; it's your people and you that sell your product. Being open, upfront, understanding your product concept, being able to articulate it, being able to show how it also is going to benefit others. It's not about the kind of hard sell or anything like that. It's just simply about being open and being confident about who you are and why you're here to do these things. It may be the case that they say, no, I don't want to work with you because of that. And do you know what? That's a good thing to find out now as well. Because rather than finding out later when they finally see what your product concept is, and then they're suddenly going, well, actually, no, we don't want any of that. That's a long way to go down a road of partnership and potentially contracts and other things to find out actually that this isn't right. So collaboration is so important, and that's why it's one of the elements in sales. Is it does have an outsized impact on your ability to sell. It borrows credibility from an organization that has spent many years in general building that up with the people that you are here to serve, and therefore a partnership with them gives you a significant boost and a significant credibility add very, very quickly. So have a look around your industry, think about the people that you are looking to serve, and think about who is already talking to them. Okay, and start to and see if you can plug into that network, share that credibility. Obviously, give back whatever you can give back, and it's about those other companies that are talking to your audience and what they can do to help you too. All right, so that's sales collaboration. And the next one we're on to is sales goals. Down here, so sales goals. Now, this again is something that I find that perhaps younger businesses or smaller businesses that are looking to grow fast, they don't really want to put a number on it. All right, so sales goal is all about targets. It's all about making sure that you know what you're aiming at. It is really hard to hit something if you don't know what you're aiming at. So by putting down sales goals and sales targets in writing on a spreadsheet that says, right, in 3 years' time, this is where I want my revenue to be. This is how many I want to have sold. That is a really strong and powerful indicator to you, to your teams, to your customers, to investors, to your family and significant others about what you are really serious about doing. All right. It is really, really, really important to have that notion. Now, it is really hard to sit there and think about, right, what's 3 years going to look like? And by the way, 3 years is quite important. 3 years it's far enough away, and I'm obviously very mindful that we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, but almost more so now, trying to predict that 3 years is going to be important because it's going to help you to make decisions about what's realistic. What do you really think is going to happen over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? Because you're a business, right? And you're a business that's got to grow, and you want to get that get that process going that says, I know that in 6 months' time I want to be doing this, in a year's time I want to be doing this, in 2 years and 3 years I want to be doing this, and that just gives you that real that focus. And it's important because time runs away. We will find ourselves suddenly. I mean, it's nearly June, all right? It's nearly June in 2020, and that's a crazy time. And the fact that it is 2020 is crazy, and the fact that it's the middle of the year is crazy. Time runs, and unless you have a vision or an understanding of what you are thinking about doing in 6 months' time, a year, 3 years' time, then that time will just disappear, and you can turn around, and perhaps some of you have turned around and are using this time to really re-establish that kind of concept, and I applaud you for that, and hopefully this is helping a bit, because the last 6 months has rushed through, the next 6 months will rush through, the next 3 years will rush through. You've got to find the time to sit and go, right, and what is it that I'm wanting to get done? What kind of life do I want to be living in 3 years' time? How, we talked about kind of people wanting bigger gardens and studies now, because obviously working at home is evidence to a lot of people their garden's not big enough and they can't work at the kitchen table because the kids are running around. If you want to change that to this point, and you're in business obviously to make a difference, but also to make some money, then you're going to need to know what's good enough. How do I get to that point where my end game is I want a different house, or I want to extend the house, or whatever it is. How am I genuinely going to get that return, on my endeavors, on my efforts? Because if you don't have a plan and if you don't have a goal, you will not hit it. All right, you can't. And that also means that those that are around you are perhaps a little bit in the dark. They may not articulate it. They may not tell you what you're doing. Why don't you know this stuff? But there is something that is enormously powerful about putting down some really clear thinking about, right, this is how I want to grow. And the kind of the three things that I always think about is put it down 3 years. 3 years is not 5 years, so it's not too far in the distance, but it's far enough. And it's not just 1 year where you're going to kind of, it doesn't have enough of a vision going forward. Because 1 year you tend to be reasonably conservative, and perhaps rightly so, but 3 years you can be quite ambitious. You can be quite, right, okay, well actually if all these things come to play, then this is where I can get to. The thing about putting all that down, and I know this, is the fear. All right, what happens if I mess it up? What happens if I don't hit any of this stuff? And I get that, and it is genuine. It's a genuine feeling. Always monitor it. Always be mindful, and you can iterate. Right? It's not set in stone that in 2021, June 2021, you absolutely will be doing this. But what it gives you is that guide to what I need to have gotten done if that's got any chance of happening. Right? Any chance at all. And what you find is that where you may be under a little bit for the first sort of 6, 8, 9 months, but if you are still thinking about, right, by December I should be doing this, or by June or May next year I should be doing that, you push yourself. All right, you push yourself, and you push your teams, and you push the business towards those heights much more than if you didn't have that spreadsheet with those numbers on at all. All right, so goals are really important, because this shows what success looks like. Okay, in your mind, when you think about what future you is going to be doing and saying and thinking, you start to put some numbers around that, and then you start to wind back to today and go, all right, in the next month, I need to be releasing this many pieces of marketing literature out there. I need to have recruited that person. I need to have built this piece of tech. I need to have that milestone hit by September, because that's the busy period. That's when people come back off their holidays. Those are the kinds of things that creating this sales goals element does for you. It gives you that drive. Okay, more so than the product side of things or the marketing side of things. This is about getting there. This is about the end game. This is about what you are here to do. And again, just as an aside, it may be that in 3 years' time you want to sell the business. Great. If you are able to demonstrate in 3 years that you have had a plan, that you have tacked somewhere close to it or above it or just a bit below it, that at least you are in a position to convince those potential acquirers that you are that you know the levers that deliver on this particular ambition. So sales goals, really, really, really important. Obviously, any help you need on that sort of stuff, if we can, we'd love to. But yeah, it's 3-year plan. I think is the right level, and you need to think about how that kind of grows over time and make it reasonably ambitious, but something that you think you can hit. Sales goals, and also share them. Sorry, so make sure you share these goals with others. And again, it's putting yourself out there, and I get that, but others need to know A, that you've done this piece of work, B, what those targets are. I'd always add about 20% on top before you tell anybody else, so that for the sales team, sorry, particularly. So if you have your sales team, always put a little 20% in, so that they think it's 20% higher than you need. Psychology, I'm sure you get it. Basically, if people fall a little bit short, and perhaps sometimes they might, then at least you've got some fat in there for your own purposes and for your own budget. But yes, it is something that you should be talking about, that people should know, because people need to know what they're aiming at as well. And it's a really, really core part of growing businesses. Super growth businesses always have this. None of them don't. Okay, so if you want yours to grow and grow fast, you need to be doing this. Right, that is sales goals. Next up, we've got sales activity. Okay, so this is the 14th of 15 elements. It is the second last. All right, and it is the first one that we're talking about actually somebody picking up the goddamn phone and phoning people and pitching and doing all this sort of stuff. So all of this stuff, so from product concept, product design, product service, product pricing, understanding what pricing is like, USP, marketing brand, getting that right, marketing intel, knowing who your customers are, the content, what you're saying about yourself, distribution, social media, advertising, sales process, sales collaboration, sales cards, all of this has been done kind of in, not quite an aspect, but outside of the direct kind of hand-to-hand combat of talking to your customers or kind of engaging with your customers to that extent. So we talked about the funnel. This is really at the engagement phase. So this is when you're actually going out and you are making sure that people or you are doing the right levels of activity. Okay, sales is nothing without people actually going out and doing the job, and it's the one that I see so often people stumble on and businesses stumble on, because they haven't done the goals piece properly or well enough, or they haven't really thought about it, or they haven't talked to their teams about it. So they may have an idea of where they need to get to, but the team themselves are not aware, or the team is resistant. That they could be very not as enthusiastic, shall we say, about picking up the phone or about doing, say 70 contacts a day. So say 70 contacts. So maybe it's, I don't know, 40 cold phone calls, or it's 30 emails, or it's whatever that combination of activity is that delivers whatever you need it to, and your sales goals will help you to understand what that level needs to be. You will look at your sales process and you'll say, right, so I've identified 1,000 people. If I make 70 contacts with them per day, then I engage with 20 of them. Of those, 5 are going to get to the conversion stage, and of those 3 are going to commit. Then I know how big I need my sales team to be in order to get to the end, to get to the funnel, bottom funnel, where those 2 people drop out from the 70 conversations that I've had. Then how quickly do I want to go? And therefore, how do I need to resource up? So sales it's sciencey, right? That's the funnel side. It is the goal setting side. Collaboration adds in some extra credibility, but nothing can be exchanged for activity. Okay, nothing. You have to have people, or you, out there doing the numbers. All right, and it is, again, speaking to founders, to growth leaders within businesses, it's the bit that everybody just goes, oh no, I knew this was going to happen. I knew I was going to get to a stage where I'm going to have to just do this bit. And it is rare that you find people who are hyper enthused by this. I am sad enough to say that I've spent pretty much my career in sales, and I quite love it. But it is something that I totally get, particularly with founders, particularly with entrepreneurs, that this stuff is the fun stuff for them, and the sales stuff is like, please just put that person, and often you see this as well. Right? You see the sales team is almost kind of out in the corridor, as far enough away from the management team or the senior management team as possible, founder, because it's that chatter, it's that constant kind of like, they can hear people just not quite articulating it the way that they'd articulate it, and that person said the wrong word, and and it's almost like they see it as a bit grubby. Okay, and if there's again, if there's something that I can help you to rethink about, it's that sales is not grubby. Sales is this. Sales is the activity. It is the work that you do to make sure that your concept is out in the world. Okay, it is an essential part of business, and it is an important part of business, and it is a fun part of business, and it should get a heck of a lot more respect than it does. Yeah, that's my little soapbox over. But sales is critical. You're going to need to do it. You might as well embrace it, enjoy it, see the benefits of it. But activity is so important. It is something that if you can get into, and if you can start to really feel, it has outsized benefits all the way through. So the activity side, you need to know how many contacts you need to do every day, every week, every month, how many interactions that is going to require. Essentially, if you're not doing this, then the rest of it, all of this, you might as well not bothered. Okay, it's really that brutal. You know it as well, and again, speaking to loads of entrepreneurs over time, they all kind of know it, and they know that this is the cold face. This is where you're actually going up against people who are going to tell you they don't like your baby. They think your baby's actually a little bit, that doesn't look right, and that hurts. And that's something that human beings necessarily shy away from. You don't want to hear that, right? But in business, you've got to grow up on this. You've got to go, all right, look, this is important information that I am hearing back by going out and doing these 70 interactions a day or whatever it is. I'm going to get feedback that's going to hurt a bit, but it's going to be probably some of the most important feedback I get, because what it does is it actually feeds back into all of this product side of things. If you solve those challenges and the things that people don't like about your products, if you want to, then you are widening that funnel out. Okay, and you are making sure that more people drop all the way down, and it is far more straightforward and efficient for you to be out talking to these customers and for you to be selling in this way. Importantly, though, that feedback that's coming back needs to be from the right kind of people. Okay, it needs to be from the people that you seek to serve. All right, so if you are hearing something back from somebody who's saying, you need to change 20% of your product and you need to deliver this to me, and if you only do that, if you just change that, then I'll buy it. Those are such tempting words, and particularly from in my experience, from big organizations or potentially large contracts. And you can spend a lot of time going back and going, do you know what, we should really change this because this big customer will buy everything if we do it. And that again kind of feeds back to this sales process side, where I said, that you end up with people who say yes versus people who actually sign is different, sadly. So I've seen businesses do a lot of work on a potential big deal, and then that deal just disappears, it evaporates. The person that said yes goes, or they didn't really mean it anyway. And you're listening to the wrong feedback. Okay, so you need to be very clear about what you're doing up here. You need to have designed it with the market in mind, but you need to be careful about when you hear that feedback, whether actually you're going to change your product as a result of it, or swerve that customer and that particular contract and just keep doubling down on the other, perhaps smaller contracts, but you know that this is going to not cost you more to deliver it. All right, so sales activity is the bit where you are really, you're really kind of in the mix. You are out there talking to customers, hearing things, working out whether it's the right thing to do or not, and taking that feedback and pushing back. But also, you are pushing people down the funnel. So you are making those interactions, and you are doing the interventions that are going to get people closer to the end point, which is buy. Just a final thing on this, and I'm very mindful of time. you will have, or you will discover, a kind of key activity. Okay, you will discover one thing more than any other that actually widens your funnel, that gets people really excited, or gets people pushed, or gets people down to the next stage much more quickly. It might be an online demo. Okay, it might be you know, a meeting. It might be an exhibition. It might be a webinar. It might be whatever it is. Find what that key activity is and try and push people into it as much as you possibly can. Okay, and in marketing, it might be the call to action. So join us for a webinar on this particular topic, and you find more people are attracted to that, and then you can convert more people from that. So always be thinking about what's a key activity. What is the one thing that I do that makes this wider almost all the time? Okay, and double down on that and make sure you're pushing as many people into that as you possibly can. Okay, so that's sales activity, and that's the 14th. So the final element of the whole formula is sales success. Now, we talked about goals. We talked about your targets and making sure that the ones that you articulate are about 20% higher than what you actually need, and that you are measuring it, and that you are aiming through all of this, right from product concept all the way through down to sales success, that you are focused on achieving the outcome that is going to bring you success, that is going to make you turn around, look at yourself in the mirror, and perhaps in 3 years' time, and go, do you know what? Did it. Tick. Amazing, amazing feeling. All right? But, and it's a big but, when you've got there, you need a plan for what's more. All right? Because imagine you are absolutely smashing this. All right? So you've set those goals, and you've said, that's what I want to get to, but actually you're tracking way higher. You need to be in a position not just to kind of sit back and go, oh, I don't know what's happening, this is great. You need to be able to harness that. Okay, and that's why I always talk about having kind of stretch targets and a stretch goal. That means that through all of this, you are still, even if you are absolutely shooting past every single target that you've ever set, everything's going so amazingly well, you've still got some control on that kind of runaway car where you're going, right, okay, so now, because if you don't, what you're going to end up doing is disappointing everybody. All right, you'll end up with a business that is maybe massively cash generative right now or in 2-3 years' time, but you haven't got the infrastructure in place to be able to deal with it. And that's the problem as well. All right, you end up tarnishing your brand, you end up with unhappy customers, you end up with people saying, I thought it was really good, and it was really great for a while, but actually it's now rubbish, and it's really changed. You know, those customers, and perhaps you've been there, where you've been in an organisation where you've been using a service for ages, and then suddenly it just goes terrible. You're sitting there going, this is rubbish now, and then you start switching off, and you'll never switch back on. Okay, or it'll take a heck of a lot of extra work. So be mindful and plan for success, as well as keeping an eye on what's bringing less than success. But I always have a kind of stretch target. Understand what happens if you really, really, really smash it. All right, so that's a really important element in it as well. It also helps to keep people hyper motivated. So people, once you get past a particular target, people can ease off, particularly if they're earning enough, or particularly if they see their shares or share options becoming worth a significant amount more, then you have to just have those levers in place to continue to push them on. All right, brilliant. So that is sales, and that is actually the whole thing. So thank you for being with us on this Lockdown Launchpad. I hope that you've got some ideas out of it that are going to help. It's going to help your business to come out of this period with some new energy and some new focus. I'm just going to quickly dive into some questions that are coming through on the screen. Just hold on one second. So got a question here. Why is sales so? Why isn't sales loved? Okay, is the question that's coming from Neil. It's sort of referring back to what I was saying earlier. I think that it's seen as something that is a bit that's a bit kind of grubby and a bit sort of underhand in some ways as well. So people aren't necessarily drawn to it in the same way as they're drawn to doing this mission or doing this mission. So this is highly creative, this is solving problem. The sales side of things is a little bit more sort of to and fro. So I think it's just not something that people consider to be a profession. And again, I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that it is something that people should allocate more time to, respect to, because I do think that it's a hard job. And if you get the right salesperson, and if you get the right process in, you get the right team in, then you are in a position to grow so much faster than you would otherwise be. So it's worth spending the time. It's worth looking at it and thinking about it as not being something that is quite as negative as one might think. Probably time for one more. Which is the most important of the sales marketing product? I guess the kind of answer is all of them. It's a rubbish answer. Look, the most important thing actually is product concept. All right. So without that, without knowing why you're here and solving the problem that you're solving, the rest of it isn't quite irrelevant, but it almost is. So yeah, look, unless you've got a product to sell and it's right for the market and it does the things that you need it to do, then marketing, sales, legal, financial, HR, all of those things don't matter really. So yeah, look, I think that probably I spend, sales is where I spend a lot of time. This just never stops. So the iteration of the product just continues. So yeah, look, you need to be solving a real problem. You need to make sure it's got a product market fit, and you need to make sure that it is something that is going to have the right messaging around it, or enable the right messaging, and that people can get out there and sell as well. Right, it is coming up on 5 to, so I'm super grateful for your time. Thank you so much for coming in all these weeks. Those that have just popped in, thanks as well. The availability of the product and the marketing ones, we're going to put out there. I'll email you guys and let you know how to access those. We're going to put them up onto YouTube, but really grateful. Hi, bye, you guys. Good to see you. Thanks again for coming along. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be here for you if you need us. We hope that you have a great launch out of this lockdown. Yeah, look forward to catching up with you soon. Thanks again. All the best. Take care. Stay safe.